Hey, welcome back to another episode of Heroes and Videos. Today we're going to be looking at some new comics I picked up last week. We're back to last week's comics this week. Some great titles that I picked up, really enjoy. A little bit of KO action in there, some Amazing Spider-Man, and stick around to the end of the video. I just read this past week, which might be my second favorite Scott Summers moment with Cyclops. Just I wasn't expecting it. It hit pretty hard. I can't recommend it to you enough, but we'll be talking about my first favorite Cyclops moment and how this one is the best thing I've read with the character since that original moment. See if that moment's the same for you all as well. Would love for you to hit the like button if you enjoy the content. If you want to wait till the end of the video to do that to see whether or not you like it, that works for me. So I appreciate you being here. With all that said, let's get right into it. First up is Batman #3. This is the new Matt Fraction book. This is a variant cover. I love these David Aja. Is it Aja or Aja? Covers that you remember he did a very memorable run with Fraction on Hawkeye years ago. I love the simplicity. They're just really beautiful covers, and so I had to pick this one up. I've been reading the book. If you are reading Batman, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not reading the new Batman book, you should be. It's more lighthearted. It's not super lighthearted, but it's not the doom and gloom that often accompany this character. It's a different take. It's more detective. There's some lighter stuff. And this issue's villain, if he's this issue's villain, is the Riddler. And it's a fascinating take on the Riddler. Something something I didn't expect. I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, just really loving this book. Every issue is pretty much self-contained, but it seems to be part of a larger arc as well. I think he mentioned he wants to write these things as if you can pick up any book and just dive right in, which is the way honestly most comics should be. Sticking with Batman is a KO limited series with DC's KO event called Knightfight. That's not knife fight. It's not like bringing a knife to a gunfight. It's a night fight. So, hopefully you brought a Batman to a night fight. Really neat. If I don't want to spoil KO 1, which is over here behind me. If you haven't picked that up, you should. Really great event. Batman, this is kind of an offshoot of that event. You don't have to have read KO to enjoy this. It kind of helps. And you don't have to read this to enjoy KO, at least so far. I don't think it's any spoiler with a name like Knightfight that there are Batman fighting it out here. And it's in this issue, it's Batman and Dick Grayson. There's a really cool series at the beginning. It almost feels like it fits in with Fraction's run, where he's talking about his kids or his heirs, his Robins, if you will, the main four of them. So Dick Grayson, Jason, Todd, Tim Drake, and Damian Wayne. And it's just a great dynamic, the way each of them fits into a facet of his personality, Bruce that is. And it's a really good book. It's very enjoyable, so highly recommended. Knightfight. Coming up next is a little bit of Age of Revelation. This is the binary issue. Age of Revelation is really surprising me. I'm enjoying it better than I thought. I mentioned with the first issue of this book, I assumed it's going to be super cosmic. Carol Danvers at this point in the story, and this takes place X number of years from now, or 10 number of years from now, depending on how Marvel's playing that X with the X-Men, or 10 men, as I'm going to start referring to them as, if Marvel keeps doing that. I would have expected something super cosmic. Carol Danvers has inherited the Phoenix Force at this point in the future, and it gives us some insight. You see some flashbacks, flash forwards, I guess, depending on where you are, into not just 10 years out, but between now and then as well, in terms of how we got to this point in the future. It's a cool little X event that's going on between in a few months here that the other X books aren't being published. Didn't anticipate what I thought was going to be a cosmic storyline being really more about freedom and whether freedom versus security, liberty versus safety kind of thing. So I did not have that on my binary bingo card. But it's an interesting book, and the way they're going about it, presenting that choice is good. So pick up Binary if you're not reading it already. Speaking of Carol Danvers, she is front and center on this issue of Avengers 32. I think legacy number, we are getting pretty close to 800. It's 798. I've really enjoyed this volume, these 32 issues. Kang was kind of the big bad, or the thing, the main adversary at the opening of this, and continues to kind of do so. I've got to admit, for a lot of this comic, I was trying to figure out what was going on. I'm very much enjoying Avengers. I'm hoping this all comes to a head here in an issue or two with Legacy 800, but I'm always on board for Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So now we're down to the last couple of books. I mentioned Amazing Spider-Man. I had to pick up this variant cover. I remember the Bicentennial. We get ready for, 250th anniversary's coming up next year, if my math is right. And so there were a lot of those Bicentennial calendars. This variant cover for Amazing Spider-Man 15, Legacy 979, it looks like it's right out of one of those calendars. It might even be, I have to assume maybe it is, out of the Bicentennial calendar. I would have to go find my copy. I have one somewhere. But was looking, couldn't figure out who's doing that art. Is that Ramita Sr.? But then when I got a good look at the revolutionary guy right here, I don't think I can get you quite close enough to see his face. I don't know if the camera's going to get that face. That's a Ross Andru face. So Ross Andru was doing the book when I started reading it years and years ago. So I've always had a soft spot for Ross Andru. But you got to admit, it's just a beautiful cover with Spider-Man there. I assuming he's helped save the revolutionary, or the U.S. Colonialist, I guess would be the proper term at that point. But I just couldn't resist that because it's such a cool variant cover. Now, on to the actual issue of Amazing Spider-Man. This is the Amazing Spider-Man 15. I have got to do a deep dive into this storyline for those of you that may know, and I'm going to try to, again, keep this somewhat spoiler-free. The last 4 or 5 issues of this book, well, this current volume has just been incredible and amazing. I've very much enjoyed it. I know the last volume took a lot of heat. I'm a Spider-Man apologist. I'm in all the way, love Spider-Man, just be able to get the book. I can't think of a time I was out on Amazing Spider-Man. So take this with a grain of salt, the fact that I'm all about Amazing Spider-Man, whatever they're putting out. This volume's been very good. And as of issue 11, well, actually around issue 7 or 8, but this volume's been great. So around 11, I think they split the arc. So it's coming out bi-weekly now. And it's one of the stories takes place with a Spider-Man that's in New York City, helping to keep New York safe. The other half is a Spider-Man that is in space. And this one's Pete, spoiler. This cover I thought really spoiled me for the book. Did and it didn't. It's not quite what you think. So it's just beautiful art there you see on that cover. I want to say that's Pepe, who has been no, this was a different artist. Lazo. I'm mispronouncing that. Laiso is the last name of the artist. Joe Kelly's been writing both halves of the book, but it comes out every 2 weeks. One week, one issue takes place on Earth, the other issue takes place with Pete out here in space, and it's just got a great dynamic. Seeing Peter Parker out of his element, which is always a neat thing, and you get to see how he interacts, and his morality, his leadership, his character shining through. This is what makes this character great, and so read it if you're not reading it already. May also have a certain raccoon in it as well. That's why Rocket made the shelf this week with Carol Danvers and Spider-Man back there. But I'm really enjoying this book, and I really thought the last issue, or the 2 issues ago when they were in space, was one of those definitive Peter Parker as a leader moments. This continues that as well. The fact that making good decisions, doing the right thing, as much as Captain America is for Marvel and Superman is for DC, for me, Peter Parker is the go-to character in all of comic books in terms of trying to do the right thing, always trying to do what's right regardless of the cost. It's that's one of the things that puts that character head and shoulders above everybody else. That being said, buy this book if you're not buying it now already, or read this book. buy this book. Buy it if you're going to read it. This is Legacy 979. My guess is for the next year, because it was about 20-some issues to number 1,000 Legacy, that they're probably building up to a big event then. So don't expect to see Peter Parker back on Earth probably until that time, but that's just my take. Your mileage may vary. Last up, I mentioned Cyclops. So Age of Revelation, and this is Amazing X-Men, which is following the X-Men title, the current X-Men title. So in this book we've got Cyclops, Beast, those are the characters, Psylocke, those are the characters that are in the regular X-Men title today. The storyline here with Age of Revelation is that Cyclops, Scott Summers' consciousness has been propelled into the future 10 years. And so he's getting to see what things are like 10 years from now. The era of apocalypse, Doug Ramsey is kind of, his name is Revelation. He's kind of taken over a good part of the country. The idea is to see, it's sort of the opposite of Days of Future Past, where instead of Kitty Pryde's consciousness being pulled back to the past, Cyclops' consciousness and Hank McCoy, as well as Beast, has been pulled to the future to inhabit their bodies there. I mentioned at the top of the show my second favorite Cyclops moment, or Scott Summers moment, is in this book. I wasn't expecting it. That this event has been good. I haven't considered it great, maybe until this issue. Let's step back for a minute to my first favorite, or not my first favorite, my favorite Cyclops moment, or Scott Summers moment. I don't know about most of you, but for me, it's back in the Claremont Byrne run. It was during the Proteus storyline, where the X-Men are over in Scotland, and they're fighting Moira McTaggart's son Proteus, who can bend and shape reality. I want to say we're talking around issue 126, 127, where this character is inhabiting people that he's burning out. So he can look like anybody, and yet he can warp reality. So I think it's Wolverine and Nightcrawler and Storm have an interaction, or they run into Proteus, and he warps reality, and so they're pretty shook from their interaction with him. I don't remember how or why Proteus got away from them, but at the point in our story where Cyclops, comes along with them, or meets back up with them, Storm and Nightcrawler, and especially Wolverine, are really shaken. They are spooked from their interaction with this reality-shaping character Proteus, and Cyclops notices that Wolverine is particularly spooked, and he tips off. I don't remember if he tips off Colossus or maybe Storm. I think he tipped off Storm. But anyway, honestly, it might have been Jean. I don't recall. But the Cyclops initiates a fight with Nightcrawler and Wolverine and Storm, like just Cyclops taking on those three very powerful characters, and he holds his own. And it's pretty neat to see Scott Summers, taking on Nightcrawler and Storm and Wolverine and holding his own. In fact, but that's not the coolest part of the scene. The coolest part of the scene is you find out at the end of this little skirmish that Cyclops was doing this. Scott was just doing this to make sure they were okay, that they'd shaken off any PTSD from their battle with Proteus. And Wolverine particularly has a moment with Scott Summers where you can tell that Cyclops has earned Wolverine's respect, maybe for the first time in the book, or in the comic, and so or in the run, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's a pretty meaningful moment. To me it's my favorite Scott Summers moment, because he put himself at risk for his team. He put himself at risk, particularly with Wolverine, who was extremely had that bloodlust thing going on, right? He's mad. He gets mad, and is literally playing for keeps. And Cyclops took that chance for his team to make sure that Wolverine, he even says something like, "I was particularly worried about you, Wolverine." So it's really cool, that moment. I don't know about you all. You can leave me some comments to let me know if that was your favorite Cyclops moment. This one is second place for me, because I don't want to spoil it, and I shouldn't oversell it, because now you guys are going to have huge expectations of this book. But there's a sequence of events in this book, or a scene in this book, that took me back to that Scott Summers, you know, that Cyclops. And it was powerful stuff. I was not expecting it. So if you're not reading Amazing X-Men already, definitely pick up issue 2. If you're a Cyclops fan, and you know what, even if you haven't been a Cyclops fan since the Claremont Byrne days, you should pick this up, because this took me back to that period in terms of just how cool a character Scott Summers can be. So sorry, didn't mean to overblow that, but it really is a good scene. It really is a good book. You should be reading Amazing X-Men. So that being said, that's all I have for this week. Hey, that's it for another episode of Heroes and Videos. I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. As always, keep reading comics, keep going to see movies, and be kind to each other.